Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditative practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. This week we'll explore movement. I feel the need to just shake some things out, to let some release happen, and not to worry too much about what we're forming, what we're shaping on the paper. That will come naturally as our eyes engage with our action, as our mind calms and quiets and opens up to the possibility of what we might see there in front of us in our creative act. We'll just start by moving back and forth. We'll grab a pen or pencil. I think I'll use a pencil because it'll move a little bit more smoothly, and this will be a lot of repetitive oscillation movement. It's making small, short marks back and forth, not worrying about technique, not worrying about shading. You might find you go over your own marks quite a lot with your hand. It's okay, just let it go. The page will become what it becomes. But we'll work in layers, across the space of the page, mapping new trajectories, territories, wandering or moving smoothly, up to you. There'll be a lot of room for play and exploration in how you hold the pencil or the pen. You can hold it in close and get same tight motion. That might bring a lot of fatigue. You can hold it out far like a brush and get a little looser, more wobbly motion. Might be a little easier on the whole arm, wrist, chain, but will include a lot more variability with it as it goes. You can do a little of both and see how it goes over the exercise to keep things juicy and engaged, not too much fatigue building up. But if any time you notice the arm getting tired, you can always switch to the other hand or take a break for a moment, move more slowly, more softly, pause and take some breaths and take in the territory you're developing there and see how it goes. I'm working on a pad of Bristol with just some HB pencils, a couple different sizes to change things up throughout the exercise if I feel like it. Otherwise, a table, desk, your lap, anything you have in front of you that lets you sit comfortably for 20-30 minutes, move your arms a bit, breathe easily, and engage mindfully with that page, with your surroundings, and with your action will get you on your way. So go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. What will this one be? What is the theme? I don't know if it has one. I thought it might need something just to move around a little bit, move some stuff out. We're kind of very active with the hands, but not necessarily a strong guidance to what we find on the page. The play within it and practice as well. This might be a bit of a messy technique of just kind of going back and forth when you're producing a little bit of shade with these really fast parallel lines. If you use a pencil, it'll soften, feathery out, something like that. If you use a pen, let's see, get a little bit more precise feathering. You see the lines and the ends more from the ink. And we'll give some attention to if it's our wrist moving, it's our hand moving, it's our arm moving through the exercise. But we'll use this back and forth, finding a pace for ourselves, and then begin moving around, wandering, oscillating, forming a shape with anything you begin to think of as we go. I will do several different ones, making, in a sense, some clouds or shadows on the paper. Going very fast right now in the warm-up just to get a sense of it, get the movement going. But as we work through the exercise, we'll play a little fast, slow, weaving in and out those places of coincidence or overlap, providing density changes, and maybe something will emerge interestingly from the drawing. But it'll just be that back and forth, and we can kind of play around with whether you hold the pen or pencil out longer, more like a brush, maybe a bit lighter stroke, maybe a little more inconsistency, in closer, like a pen or pencil, like writing, be a little tighter, but more chance to smudge this all over the place. Or a little both to just explore it around the page. Because there's going to be a lot of rapid movement, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, probably kind of a diagonal motion will make sense. But if you want to challenge it, this could work quite well. I think working away from yourself might be a lot of effort on the arm. And on that page, open and empty, ready to receive the medium, the graphite or the ink, just take a moment, look into it, frame it, open it up for the eyes. Just sit in stillness for a few seconds with the page there. Occasionally looking away between breaths, either closing the eyes or just letting them look up and out. And coming back to the paper, the large space of emptiness. Depending on the color, I guess. It could be a blank whitish paper, yellow, dark brown, gray, whatever you're working with. And we'll begin to shade in a little bit of shadow and cloudiness to that, finding anywhere along there to begin working. I think I'll work mostly from left to right for myself, so I don't draw over the top too much. And begin at a nice, even pace, that back and forth. If your wrists and hands are used to it, you could try to focus more on one direction than the other. Good shading technique, but if it's fun just to move, let it go back and forth. It won't hurt anything. It might make something interesting. And as you oscillate there, gradually shifting position, moving along the diagonal of the page, the first few moments, finding some balance, what feels good in the motion of the arm. Can you keep the wrist kind of steady, not too flicky, or if that becomes too much, see where the flick goes. A little more curve, a little more tight action, perhaps. When the whole arm is engaged, we have a little wider, a little more consistent action. Just feeling that out as we go over this whole territory. Through many passes, getting a sense of how the arm moves, how the hand feels, directions you might move with, oscillating, diminishing, expanding, playing out some speed to feel some differences. Noticing if there's any tightness or quick fatigue someplace in the position of the arm. Could put a lot of stress on the nerves or the joint. And adjust from there if you need to let the hand rest a little more, let the elbow come in, or drift out depending what feels better. Hold the pen or pencil a little closer, a little further, noticing the differences. As we move across whatever space or territory is there before us, things might change, bringing a little variety, a little adaptation. Again, something to observe, and as we notice it, interact with it, perhaps guide it a little bit, this light feathering shadow across there. I'll work in passes, probably always left to right for myself, but whatever feels good for you. Take it as the exploration. And if you're ready to start a second pass, go ahead. If you've already, keep going. If you're still in the first, follow that through to the end. We'll do many iterations across the page, layering them on top of each other. But what we can start to do now is use our familiarity with the motion, the warmed up nature of our joints and muscles working together, to enter in a little more mindful connection with that hand. See if you can bring the movement to the slowest that still feels light and easy. Doesn't have to get clunky or hard. It's just to move freely, oscillating back and forth, but slowing it down as much as you can. Slowing it down to where it's hard to focus on anything else. Slowing it down so that we don't run across the paper, but just move gradually, oscillating. And the motion still may be quite quick, but slower. Just a little slower than what might be comfortable from the first exploration. That attention to the holding of the pencil, the attention to the holding of the arm and the wrist connected, to bringing consistency to speed, to changing position, left and right, forward and back, many directions at once, all absorbing our attention of the mind. A deep entering into the technique and the action. If it ever gets too heavy, too much tension, start a new pass, take a moment to recollect, a few breaths perhaps, even roll the shoulders or roll out the wrists, a lot of repetitive motion. Get a little tight. You can always switch hands and see how that goes. Switch pencils or pens and see how that goes. We'll keep working, starting from that slow pace. If you take a break, then we'll begin to use our breath to let pacing find its natural rhythm for us. As we've given it attention, brought it into the foreground, the speed of oscillation. Our body knows it. Our system is aware of it. It may drift out of our focus again. That's okay. We can always bring it back. We know the way to enter it. And we'll see how the body does with it by following the breath as we come into a new cycle whenever you're ready. Begin to bring that attention to the inhalation and exhalation. They're unlikely to match, so the speeds are quite different. That's okay. What we'll do is breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. You can follow my cue or find your own rhythm, as we'll all have a little different cycling of our breath, energy. But bring that attention to the breathing in. Bring that attention to the exhalation. Let the hand do what it does. Fill out all of your rib cage and torso with the inhalation. Release any tension with the exhalation. In, expanding, out, releasing. Really focusing your awareness on those cycles of the breath. When you're empty, does the body call for inhalation? What triggers a sense of fullness? Can you engage with those end ranges? Be a little more empty at the bottom. Expand to a little more fullness at the top. Not too far beyond, just touching the limits of your attention to the breath. And this one, maybe we'll give it a few minutes of quiet meditation on that cycle of inhalation and exhalation, tracking along the range. Establish the end ranges, bring attention also to the middle. Listen with the mind, listen with the ears, listen with the body. Just let that hand keep moving for a few minutes in silence. As you're riding those waves of the breath, if your output onto the paper happens to look anything like mine, these layers of oscillating and wobbling back and forth shades, perhaps you ride some of the waves of the drawing, emerging from the rounds of simple interaction, suggesting new patterns in motion, letting the eye start to guide a little bit the visual sense, or maybe primary or driving sense of interacting with the visual medium, page. Not necessarily subtle, but well trained and adapted to seeing shapes, figures, movement, patterns, giving us cues or clues into where we might go next. Can let it absorb that space of the drawing with motion or without. Taking a full breath cycle to see what is there, the layers, the gaps, the places of shade, the places without. And begin working around new edges, round holes, forming outline, the same back and forth motion, letting the eye speak to us a little bit, guide where we go as we work our way in and out of previous oscillations, sometimes enhancing, reinforcing, merging them together, sometimes working against them, adding more density in some places, working across or through the motion as the eye guides, and you become an observer of the vision, an observer of the desire of the hand to move, letting go of control, the action well established, pencil or pen moving back and forth, oscillating quickly, the breath rising and falling, the eyes seeing subtle shifts, the fine muscles of the fingers and the hand and the wrist responding to those shifts. All will play small gaps in latency between each stimulus. They come together in our own rhythm, our own cycles of observing, of being present. With so many things all in one moment. As you watch the connection between your hand and your eyes, drifting a little out of the interaction, becoming more of an observer to your own expression, opening up some relaxation with that marking of the page, opening up some being with the unfolding, oscillating layers. You, the paper, the pencil or the pen, the hand, the eyes, all converging in each quick swipe or motion. All connected together, but independent, coordinated systems, senses, impulses, judgments, desires, guidance, presence. Noticing these things becoming embedded in the space of the page. Last few minutes, the hand is getting a bit tired. It might be a nice time to work in smaller increments. You notice many edges that stand out, letting the hand work into those edges, soothe them together, perhaps create new ones in that attempt, letting that cohesion, connection of the many things become my interaction with the page, my noticing, my movement, my visual sense or aesthetic judgment, all coalescing from the shadows. And after a minute or two more of just fun roaming through that space, bringing edge and definition, bringing connection and emergence, following the drawing with all parts of your being present and mindful to this action. And there's quite a lot of medium deposited there on the page, ink or graphite, whatever it may be, as a reflection, an expression of our position, of bodies, relative connection to the paper, maybe a bit of an arc, a bit of a directionality to that mechanical motion of the hand or the arm. There's the fatigue or looseness that develops in our hand in different places, a large palimpsest of the time spent with the drawing there. As you feel ready, begin to come to a close with the drawing portion of the exercise, or feel free to keep moving if it's feeling good and you're having fun. You have more paper to work with. As you bring the pen or pencil to a rest, taking a moment to check in again with the body, the two sides probably have been working quite differently, so it'd be good to bring them back together, connect the fingertips from both sides, the many nerve endings and centers, pulse them a little bit, maybe tap them so they speak to each other and activate through both sides of the brain, both sides of the body. Take a few deep breaths and continue the tapping if you can. Realign the two halves so they can work together. Bring them in close, with a little pressure, and let them relax out and wiggle. The same but different together and separate. Our balance in symmetry and difference, in preference and action. Yes, really feel that one in the arm, and it's nice to take that tension and energy from one arm and let it blend through the other, bring the halves back together as a closing out. Just move everything back into a setting position, but knowing that that repetitive action, that marking of the page brought a little release, a little quick motion, brought some freedom to move around and test things and play, and then in the end brings canvas, a tapestry of layers colliding, overlapping, seaming together, zippers moving back and forth, or some other form of undulating clouds shading that empty space of the page, creating pockets of softness, pockets of heaviness, pockets of emptiness, pockets of fill and density, complexity, variety, and something fun for the eye to track, to explore, and perhaps to inspire new creative works. But wherever your drawing took you, I hope you found some relaxation, found some fun and joy in it. And if you did, give it a thumbs up below. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it. Share with your friends, bring more people into the mindful drawing experience. And if you like these exercises, subscribe, as every Wednesday morning there's usually a new one that comes up, a fun thing to think about, how to creatively engage with the page and use that as an entrance into our own mindful practice. And wherever this exercise takes you for the rest of the day or evening, I hope it's good, I hope it's relaxing. And as you move on to the next thing in your day, remember, draw well. Thank you.